Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I'm Reverend MeeLing, been known by a few names: Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle. Few names. Quite a few names. So I'm passing by Brooke Army Medical Center, or San Antonio Medical Center, which is at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, where I had woken up from my coma after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. But this is the 20th of June 2000, or 21st of June 2020. And so, literally 20 years ago, although I don't think I was awake from my coma yet, at this time in 2000. So, I have been considered weird for a whole bunch of different aspects. One of the aspects I have been considered weird for, in what I'm going to explain in this particular official YouTube channel video of mine, is people didn't understand how I could still support the United States of America's armed forces. Various branches, various divisions. And that includes even my now ex-boyfriend, where I had dealt with that whole aspect of what happened and winding up in Washington State and that whole thing. Could not understand how I could still support the United States of America's armed forces. And it's quite simple, for me at least, because I know that if I had the head injury that I had before, anywhere outside of the United States of America, I would not be able to do as I do. As many issues as I've had over the years, no denying that. If it wasn't for those guys, each and every one of them, I would not be able to have my hairstyle the way it is. I would not be able to have any of my tattoos. Now, I don't actually... I like my tattoos. I appreciate my tattoos. It's not that I don't. It's just, for me, I'm quite shy about them. For a lot of different reasons. Partially it has to do with stereotypes. Partially it has to do with how some assume certain things. And that includes with my hairstyle and hair color. And if it wasn't for each and every guy who had signed that dotted line, made that choice to go in, even in reference to when there was the draft in Vietnam, because there were the guys that didn't adhere to that. There were those who had decided to run instead of signing the dotted line. You know, those choices were made. And so I would not be able to look as I do. I would not have the ability to speak the way I can. And not just in reference to the current guys, obviously, but also the ones of the past. You know, as far back as the Revolutionary War. I wouldn't have that capability. Nobody who has a tattoo that they chose would be able to do so. Nobody that dyes their hair in whatever color choice they choose in the United States of America would be able to. Not without guys who had put it all on the line. And I'm not being sexist when I say that. I mean that in the East Coast way. Because realistically, if it wasn't for those guys, the freedoms that we have in the United States of America, we wouldn't have if it weren't for them. You know, and I've been made fun of in various ways. I've dealt with that. I've been treated as I've been treated because of that. And that is what it is. I still don't change my opinion on that. And so in reference to my Medal of Honor art project, you know, I genuinely appreciate the ability to be able to have done what I had as far as my Medal of Honor art project. I went out on my own. I did that on my own. I didn't have to have anybody show me how to do that. I just did it. I knew how to do that. It was a thing for me to do. And to show, not just by my words that I had spoken so many times well before, as far as not just beginning my Medal of Honor art project and doing my Medal of Honor art project, but also in reference to the aspects which I had explained before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I had explained to people that the aspects that so many fought for, despite certain aspects, would not be what we have today. And so for an example, if you look at the aspects of what's going on in 2020 at this time, according to the news, there are the aspects of people destroying monuments, which that shouldn't be. How do you learn from history if you don't at minimum have that? So there was a point in time where a bunch of the Medal of Honor recipient commendations that I had printed out, and I did not know about the hacking or the stalking at the time. That was in 2016. I'd printed out, I'd already looked at the stuff as far as the different commendations beforehand. However, I'd printed them out and worked on my Medal of Honor art project stuff. And later, my now ex-boyfriend pointed to some of them and he said, "Why aren't you going to change those words?" And I asked, "What words are you talking about?" And he looked at me and he goes, "The ones that say they earned their Medal of Honor for chasing down a desperate savage Indian." I looked at him and I said, if that is what the United States of America's government had put into writing those many years ago, then that shows how far our country has come in the United States of America. That shows that. If not, you know, obviously not really knowing about the other aspects, if not, you know, that's not for me to change. That needs to be that way, to learn from. Because either way, as far as now is concerned in 2020, if it is, you know, to be looked at in various ways, you can see how far the United States of America and society has come. And you are able to have that to look at, to learn from, to change for being the better, instead of remaining in that sort of state. And my now ex-boyfriend looked at me and was just, that's weird. No, it's not. If you realistically think about it, how else do you learn? And with certain people, only learning through visuals, or learning better through visuals. That is actually a way to look at that. And while some might not necessarily agree with me, the realistic aspect is some people learn that way. That is how they find the inspiration to do things to be better in life, to make a bigger contribution, to assist with things. So, you know, in that regard, and I keep this thought in that reference of, if that is the case, if that was written in reference to government aspects, our United States of America's government doesn't put stuff like that in writing anymore. You know, and when I say government, I mean in the official aspect. You know, I don't believe that everybody in the United States of America's government is as bad as some people might think. You know, and usually the people who don't necessarily have a positive view have been doing certain things that get them in trouble. Or they support things that are troublesome. Whereas, you know, I can see the benefits. And I'm not saying that, you know, every aspect of life should be in that reference. But in regards of my Medal of Honor art project, you know, if those words were used in regards of that commendation or set of commendations by the United States of America's government, and that was back in the Indian-American War, or Indian-Spanish War, or whichever war. I know it was Montana State, guys. How far have we come since that time? Now, I understand in regards to stuff online, you see quite a bit of stuff online. And I've personally dealt with all sorts of threats that at those times nobody wanted to believe me that I knew. And I was told I was overreacting, and I was told that I was delusional, and I was told that if it wasn't for my head injury that I wouldn't see things that way. And it's like, I actually showed people some of the threats I received. And I'm talking about the ones like in writing and where they could actually look, and not the ones that just randomly disappeared. And I was told that I was being fake. And it was one of those, no, I'm not. That's legitimately what I was sent. Look, that was sent to me. And so people then told me that they thought that I was pretending and I was doing all that. And I was like, I don't have the time or the patience, especially back in the time of 2010, 2011, and 2012. I definitely did not have the time to be doing that. Not that I would now either, obviously. However, with what was going on in my life at that time, and doing the best I could for my daughter after what occurred, because of McCoy Elementary School in Carrollton, Texas, of Carrollton Farmers Branch Independent School District, as well as making sure my son was squared away and all that. I didn't have time for that. I didn't have patience for that. I still don't have patience for that, and I still don't have time for that. Nonetheless, that sort of stuff I am not the type of person who, despite the fact that I've done modeling, despite the fact that I got the official YouTube channel thing going on, which I appreciate being able to do, that I'm not the type of person who actually seeks attention in the way that I was being accused of. And one of the things in reference to how I had raised my children had been good attention, things that you have done in a good way. That is better to focus on. If you want attention, you want attention in what you have done, what you have achieved, what you have accomplished. You don't want attention in a negative way. You don't want attention where you're getting in trouble, because realistically, that's not a good way to live. That's not helpful, not only to you, and I did explain this to my son and my daughter. It is not just not helpful to you to go seek out bad attention because you get in trouble and you deal with this, that, and the other, but it's also not helpful for others in that regard. So good attention is what you should be wanting to pay attention to. Good attention is what you should be seeking, because while, everybody has issues, and, nobody's perfect in every single way, there are different things in reference that you can do that even in a small way, it's better to get good attention than bad attention. At one point in time, my daughter had asked, she had asked me why the only way she could get attention from certain people had been through doing bad things. And I looked at her and said, that is their problem. That is their issues. And that is stuff that they themselves have to work on to be better. That is what they are accustomed to. You need to pay attention and do what is good. Because what is good and what is helpful assists. And it's better to have that sort of aspect in life, because you are able to be proud of what you've done. Because if you only do things looking at negative and bad attention, then the only thing you're going to have is a whole bunch of regret. And it's better to live as best as you can and not look back in regards to years after they go by and regret that you did something because it caused a problem needlessly. It's better to be able to look back and be proud of what accomplishments you have done, and have the humility to know, there's betterment in other ways than it is to essentially only go for the bad attention. Because when you go for the bad attention, then you have to look back when, whenever you do that, and all you see is the problems that you caused instead of the good that you could have done, and then there's regret. And my daughter just kind of looked at me and she's like, well, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. And so, in reference to what was going on as far as the stuff where she was being antagonized wrongly, is just one of those. I had told her I hope that there would be a day where, people could still have fun and joke around, but the seeking for bad attention would essentially be null and void, because it would be seen that it's better to go for good attention, to achieve more, to do more, and to be known for better things, you know. And so with the stuff that's going on, you know, with the different monuments and statues, how do you learn if you don't have those examples? How do you overcome that sort of stuff if you allow yourself to forget it? How do you make the world better if you do not have those things in regards to those times? So, for example, the Christopher Columbus stuff. Well, the people that are and have destroyed certain pieces of those, you wouldn't be here if he didn't get the stuff to be able to go explore the world. You wouldn't be here at all. You wouldn't be in the United States of America. If you feel that guilty for being here, then find your ancestry and go back to the country that you came from if you feel that guilty. Or technically your ancestors came from. If that's truly how you feel when in regards to destroying stuff like that. If you destroy stuff in reference to the one that I saw, what was it? Then President or General George Washington, because at that time slavery was going on. Well, slavery is not going on the same way in the United States of America. You have to take into consideration that the Civil War occurred, and the Republican Party had fought for that to make sure the equality was truthfully across the board. So why would you go and take those monuments down if that's what was around at that time, and not be able to look at the aspects of how far we have come since then? And again, African Americans were not the only slaves back in that time. There were Irish slaves. There were Italian slaves. There were all sorts. And so it wasn't just African Americans that were slaves back in those days. Just like in World War II, it wasn't just the Hebrews that were in concentration camps. Just like in the Salem witch trials, it wasn't just females who were attacked. And so, without the ability to have that as a way to learn from, then what is the purpose of that? What is the truthful aspect? Is it because, the statues that have been destroyed, is that truthfully because of the claims that have been made? Or is it because instead of being better and doing better, you'd prefer to destroy things, which is not good attention? I personally don't understand a lot. However, in regards to the way I grew up, I didn't get anything except for bad attention when growing up with what I dealt with. Very seldomly did I ever get good attention. So I got to appreciate good attention the very, very, very few times I ever got to get it as a child. I didn't have someone ask me the way I did in regards to my son and daughter, what happened in your day today? You know, how did school go? What happened in school? How did your classes go? What happened with you and your friends? You know, that sort of stuff. I didn't have the, you want to go and play with so-and-so? Okay. Just, you know, be back by a certain time. Let me know if you're going to go here, and let's, you know, let's keep that line of communication open so that way we can discuss things. I didn't have that. I had, you know, you will do this and you don't have any other choice. And I didn't really like that. And so then I also got in trouble for what my biological sister did instead of what I had accomplished and done. And so, you know, I can see both sides from personal experience. And to me, good attention is much better. As little as I've gotten. It's one of those I personally find that much better than bad attention. It's a personal thing. I cannot be the only one who thinks that way. So maybe that should be thought about in regards to those varying aspects, because even General George Washington, who then later was President George Washington, there were many things that were learned. And so I don't personally understand how people can be so hateful towards the United States of America when being here. I don't understand the vitriol. Because even though my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 happened when I was in basic training, and I dealt with what I dealt with, I still wouldn't be able to be myself if I had that happen anywhere else. And in that regard, it's just very confusing to me. So, you guys have a good one. Think about that. Because I'm sure there are plenty of individuals who can look back, even in a short amount of time, and say, okay, you know what, if whatever. And genuinely evaluate